Hey everyone, and welcome back to Flutter from Scratch. In today's video, we'll be having a bit of a look at some of the upcoming changes to the Flutter block state management solution. There's probably a pretty good chance that you're using the state management solution in your Flutter apps, considering how popular it is on PubDev. Now, as we mentioned, there are some changes coming up to this package. Now, as developers and as cross-platform developers, we tend to really not like changes, and we tend to particularly dislike breaking changes when we have to make a change to our code to facilitate a new update to a package we're using. And that makes sense. It's annoying to have to change something that maybe for you was working fine just because something has changed in a package that you use. Well, that's pretty much what's happening with Flutter Block. In its next release, the mapEventToState method will be going away in favor of event handlers. Now, obviously, mapEventToState is central to how Flutter Block works and how it runs its state management. Events come in and then states are yielded back out through that mapEventToState function. If mapEventToState is going away, that's a pretty big change to how Flutter Block works. It also means you can't upgrade to the newest version of Flutter Block without first making some changes in how your blocks work in your apps. Now, you might be there and you might be like, why? Why is it like this? There wasn't anything wrong with how it used to work. And to be fair, when I read the deprecation warning in Android Studio that this was coming, I felt a similar way. I hadn't noticed any issues in my apps, so why was Flutter Block changing? Well, as it turns out, there's actually 3 good reasons why these changes are taking place. First, there's actually a bug in how Dart handles streams that yield over time. There's a really long GitHub issue that goes into great depth about what these issues are, and it has some pretty good commentary from Felix, the guy who created Flutter Block, talking about some issues that he observed in how Dart processes streams. Sometimes, streams can yield in a way that you're not expecting them to, and it seems to be related to a very small timing issue. Now, obviously, Block uses streams heavily, both to accept events into blocks and also to yield new states. So if Block is built on top of streams and the streams are working inconsistently, then we can't be sure that our blocks are going to work consistently either, right? If our streams can't be consistent and reliable, it means that the states coming out of our block can't be consistent or reliable. But fortunately, with these upcoming changes to Flutter Block, we actually work around these issues. Secondly, the way the block works today is pretty good. Obviously, we have the mapEventToState to map events into states. But it does contribute to a little bit of boilerplate. Now, obviously, in order to have a block, we have our mapEventToState function within our block, and then we have our events come in, and then we yield states appropriately. We're supposed to break out our functionality in here into smaller bits and pieces to make it more readable and more maintainable. But if you're anything like me, your mapEventToState method just grows and grows and grows as you add functionality over time. Because the new way that Flutter Block works relies on event handlers and not mapEventToState, we actually save on a lot of boilerplate. Instead, we just use the on function to register event handlers, and then we emit the new state as we would expect to. This actually reduces the amount of code that we need to write, which can increase readability and make it easier for us to work on our apps, which is always a good thing. Third, and finally, it makes it easier to work with asynchronous streams within our apps. Normally within our app, if we'd like to subscribe to a stream and then yield asynchronously from it into our block and then up into our app, you have to use a yield generator function to subscribe to these changes over time and then to yield them into your block state. But if the stream that you're subscribed to never comes to an end or encounters some other kind of issue, it can be easy to have your block get stuck in a state where it just never finishes because the stream it's depending on never finishes either. But people who are new to Flutter and working with streams might struggle with that particular aspect. Occasionally, a stream that you subscribe to may just never complete, which causes your mapEventToState method to never complete either. Fortunately, with the upcoming changes to Flutter Block, we don't actually have to use these yield generators anymore. Instead of that, we can just emit a new state whenever we want to. That means it's easier and more consistent to subscribe to a stream of data. Well, that's the upcoming changes to Flutter Block in a nutshell. If you'd like, you can read the migration guide that's attached to this video, or you can come and ask questions in the Flutter BLOC Discord channel. If you're just getting started with Flutter and Flutter BLOC, now's a great time to be doing so, as your new code will obviously adhere to the standard and you'll benefit from all these improvements. But if you're more like me and you have quite a few old apps that you'll have to migrate manually to make this work, then happy migrations to you. May your code compile the first time and your tests pass on the first attempt. Until next time, this has been Flutter from Scratch.